Hello, everybody. Good evening. This is Dr. Rao, starting my regular room at 6 o'clock this time. This room is going to be on mostly be who you are. Today, I'm going to talk about the self knowing, what does that mean, and how we can do certain simple things, to do that. So basically, we're going to talk about meditation, journaling, therapy, and some feedback on what we do. It's like a turning inward and finding out who we really are, right? Uh, really seeing what our thoughts are and how we can really see our feelings and our conditioning, our all those things. If you are meditative, you can pay attention to all that's going on within you without any judgment, right? That's a very good thing. And if you journal, you can really document what's going on with you. And then later on, when you study, you may see what was going on with you, which you have already forgotten. So that reflection will help you much better. And of course, going to the any therapy with a counselor or a guru or whoever you trust, and it's a process of really exploring your inner thoughts and feelings and all that, right? So that is what happens usually. And then feedback from your friends, from your relatives, from your loved ones, and all that also can give you an idea about who you really are, provided you don't react with an ego and all that, right? So we're going to see that why that is not happening that much. But then everybody has a counselor, and they depend on the counselor to let them know what was going on with them. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about reflection on the goings on in the mind within yourself, and then looking at them without any judgment, and then really getting insight into where your mindset or where your conditioning, where your actual inner life is, right? That's what we're going to know. It's the self knowing. Okay. Uh, I will just wait for some more people to come before we go into actual subject. But this is what I was going to do here because a lot of people are interested in this topic and asked me to talk about it too. So I thought I will definitely join them, and then see whether they will come. Uh, so, uh, so whatever it is, you can see that most of the modern life is like a very fast-paced. We run, 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 not having any time even to stop for our self-care, right? And that's why we teach people how to care for themselves, starting with the inert body to the running mind and to our inner being, right? So lots of times people don't have the time to do all that. But I hope people will make enough time for that, and then they will be spending some time on this, at least on a weekly basis or on a monthly basis or on a yearly basis. I think a lot of people do at the time of the uh, January 1st. Okay, that's what when they do that, right? And then that is really forgotten soon after you made the decisions, and then the just will be there for a few weeks, maybe a couple of weeks, and then they're back to their old habits. I've seen it with so many people, right? I'm not uh, making fun of them, but that is something we see that, right? With all of us. But then people who are reflective, that means they kind of take time to stop and evaluate what's going on within my mind, what is happening with my thoughts and emotions and my reactions and all that. But if the reflections remain just, reflections only, but nothing comes out of it, then they may not be much useful. But if you have an insight into what was going on with the facts and figures and news and everything, but what is it that you have learned from it, or what is it that you really understand clearly, and then see the uh, good side and the bad side and all of that, right? And then with that insight, it should reflect, it should really uh, come into your behavior. That's when the transformation happens. Otherwise, all these things are transactions which you do not have any value at all. You know? On the other hand, some people may feel bad discovering, suppose they lied somewhere, or suppose they were angry with somebody, or suppose they missed a chance of expressing love and affection. All those things count, right? So then they may feel bad about themselves. That was not what we are looking for. We are looking for impassionately stepping aside and looking at what is going on within us through the mirror of our mind, and then reflect on it, and then get an insight on it, and then act on that insight. Now that only then it will be considered. And in ancient wisdom, they have some steps. They said first listen, then reflect on it, and think on it, and question it. At the end of that, you will come to a conclusion, or you will come to an insight into what happened, how it happened. You understand better, right? And then once you find that is true, then go and allow it to happen in your regular life. Okay, so all this knowing about ourselves is not going to be valuable unless it touches your daily life. Daily life, what we do with our job, what we do with our colleagues, what we do with our family, what we do with our relationship with the God and the society or the world around you. All those things should be affected by your inner reflection and learning about yourself, and then you will be able to really take care of those things that are tendencies in you that are happening without you thinking. So there is a significance of uh, what is happening with the daily life whenever you have this reflection of what went on in your life. And the more sincerely, the more frequently, the more with ease you can do without suffering the emotional reactions, and the better is for you. Okay, then or somebody else will show it to you, or consequences of any actions and your tendencies. Suppose simple thing. Suppose you are in the habit of getting angry and blurting out at somebody, and that has its consequences, right? And then those people will carry that anger or the hurt that they suffered because you were angry with them and you yelled at them, and they carry that, and that kind of changes their behavior towards you. And then what happens? So then that person may change his attitude. Now basically the relationship suffers. That's the thing. That's why all these things should not be in your mind and you just study and learn and feel like, oh, I am so knowledgeable. That's not the point. The point is that knowledge is seeped into your own inner nature, and then with that you are able to come through and then change your daily reactions, daily life, daily way you feel everything. So that's why some of the real sages, they talk about, unless these things go and touch your daily life, they have no meaning. Okay, so most of the people spend time and energy on retreats and going there, thinking that somebody else is going to give me the knowledge with which everything will be changed. But unless that penetrates your inner understanding and then stays there, and then you are really firmly want to do that in your behavior, it never becomes the thing that you want to do it again and again and again. So what we are looking for is this learning about ourselves should go into transformation of ourselves in action. in daily action, so then that becomes very, very valuable for anybody, right? So they had this lifestyle in the ancient time where they were more concerned about that, their inner nature, and how to know about it, and if it is egotistical nature, how to transcend that ego, and then keep quiet and silent, and then really touch that inner nature of ours, which is like a divine self, right? So that's what they were really after. And then they found the joys, the pleasures, the luxuries, whatever you experience in life outwardly, they are fleeting, and they are not satisfactory after they do some things now. We talked about this yesterday. Right? But the inner joy that you can feel by touching your true nature, that is really very, very valuable and very, very practical. And so the whole concept of pursuit of happiness was reversed in ancient times. This is like they are going to find happiness within themselves. They're not going to pursue some objects for happiness, because they thought they're all temporary. They are kind of seconds and they go. So I don't want to really pursue them, because they never fulfill. You can have a pleasure, for example, you eat certain kind of food, and that is really good for you, and that's really enjoyed it, then you feel great for the time. But then if you eat the same food every day, every meal, sooner or later you lose the penchant for it, right? That's as simple as that. Whereas touching our inner core, our inner peace and happiness that is there within us without having anything happening outside. And that is very valuable, very, very valuable. Because there was a story that they used to say, this old man was always sitting in front of a temple, and then he was sitting on a box, but they was asking people who is coming and going to the temple, give him some money. He was begging, basically. So they all gave him and went there. But then after a while, they asked him, "Well, you're sitting in a box. Have you ever looked into the box? What is in there? What is in the box?" They asked him. He says, "I never looked into it." "Why not? Why don't you look in?" It's an old box. What did you do there? I just found it. I kept it here and I'm sitting on it. Then they said, "No, no, no, go ahead and open the box and see what it is." Then he opens the box and he finds a big diamond that is very, very valuable. So it's like that. Our inner nature, our inner diamond is there. And that is the one which is giving us the peace, because it is peace itself, and is also happiness itself. But that is something, it's not a statement we can accept. Okay, this is something that each individual has to work on themselves, by themselves, through themselves, and then discover it by themselves. So it's not something given by a guru or anybody, but it's something that you touch, something that's already there, but you were forgetting about it, you were not able to see it, and all that. So they say the ego kind of wheels over this inner diamond. So you work on the mind, you work on the inner core by working on the thoughts and emotions, everything that you feel. That's why this how we are internally has to be understood. Then you will say, okay, my ego is covering up my real nature, which is very valuable. So I have to understand, and really, you can never get rid of ego. What you can do is you can make it a slave to you and not a master to you. So then you will be really not slave to the ego, but you're a master to the ego. And you won't let that ego be a master. Then you will be very happy, because you are having interactions with other people where you are not important, because you don't have the ego dominating you, right? And the other people's needs, everybody else's needs are more important. Once you are like that, then you will find your diamond. Once you transgress or transcend, that's the right word, transcend the ego, by understanding, by not allowing it to dominate your mind, you have really understood, okay, this is what it is, So then, without you doing anything, your inner self glows because it is self-conscious, self-luminous, and that loses its luster because there is a cover on it. The cover is this ego. So that's a good example, I think. So once you master like that, once you understand like that, then you always getting into the regular life with your ego subsumed or put it down, and then your real inner nature, which is kind and considerate and loving and all that, that comes through. And then you feel like, okay, I'm really feeling good about it, and that becomes, adds on itself. And then as you live in life with that kind of kindness, that kind of compassion, that kind of friendliness with people, there will be obviously good friends and everything, right? So that is the way they have um, worked on their inner self, did not ask anybody to change, but for themselves, they worked on themselves, and then they reflected on themselves, and then they studied things that told them more about the inner self. And once they realized the inner self, they were able to discover that diamond, and then they didn't have to pursue anything else. So this is a tall claim, but that is really true. Once you are psychologically sufficient, you don't have any insecurities emotionally, and you are really satisfied with how you feel. That means you are joyful, blissful, and you have that capacity to be able to be that. Once you are like that, what is happening is you don't have to go out for happiness. Happiness is within you, and then you tap on that. So that's why this self-knowing is very, very important. You start the day by just being in the present and being in the awareness. That awareness pushes the thought making mechanism to the back. So you bring forth awareness and then use the thought for your needs. Then thought becomes a tool, not a dominating tool, but a tool that you can use. It's an object, right, to you. So that's how the self-knowing helps. Okay. I hope I made it clear. You can go much deeper if there are people on the Wisdom app. If anyone wants to come up and engage in this talk, I think that would be nice. So we can talk about it, and I can see your perspective on that, and then explore that from your perspective and see what you have done so far on this aspect, or do you think this is something legitimate or something that is practical that you want to do. So it's basically you are not following any particular way of living, but then you are living according to your own inner self, but then you're really reflecting on that inner self and then transforming it as it is needed. Okay, like for example, this artificial intelligence has come, right? And we are all using chat GPT. And I heard so many good things and so many bad things about it. So many warnings are coming up now, and it seems the Apple co-founder he was the colleague of Steve Jobs. They both started the Apple in their garage or something. So he is the very unhappy person for some things of the technology, but he is also appreciative of the things that it can do. But he said, I agree, is that we have to be responsible about the negative effects that can happen with this technology, right? So I agree there. I'm using it, I'm getting a lot of benefit out of it, but also the potential misuse of this technology to invade other people's privacy is enormous, and that is what we are concerned about. And also, if it starts to make its own decisions because it is learning by itself, the neural networks working and building on themselves, and then it's learning all the facts of life by itself. Okay, and that is what is happening. Yeah. So they are concerned about some people and then they don't want to really jeopardize the humanity, but that may happen. That's their fear, right? So when you are doing all things like that, then you have to be reflective about them. What are the consequences of this kind of technology applied to all people? Okay, that's what they are doing now. And they are warning, dire warnings. And I think the ChatGPT founder or somebody who was working for Google, and he left there because he sees a lot of dangers that are coming up with this technology, and they were not listening to him. But he followed his conscience and resigned and came out. So interesting things are going on. But things change, and we can adapt to the things that are changing. That's fine. But if you can keep your mind calm and quiet when this change is happening, then what happens? You feel like really you're acting with your own conscience. That's good. If you're not, you'll feel regret later. You know. So adopt the change, be the change, but also really embrace the change for what it is, and then take the good out of it, and then try to be away from the bad. So I'm following this debate on whether ChatGPT is good or is it potentially going to be harmful to us and the planet, and all this, uh, all this. People that are really seeing some companies really do very well with this technology. There are going to be so many people losing the jobs and all. They need to be retrained, and then that plan is not existing right now. But maybe government and the private companies will come together and form a solution. But individually, you can get benefited, but then you will be left alone with a lot of time. What are I going to do with the time that is given freed by the chat GPT or artificial intelligence as a whole? Okay. So there are people and the wisdom. Let's see. Yeah, Chloe, Sparkly, Andrew, Elizabeth, Aquayemi, Alejandro, Bentley, Stella, John, Jones, Jill Smith, Julie, and Clarity Consis. Joya. Joya is there too. I think she should come up, and I would like to talk to her, and Julie too. So they are my friends. I thought so. Well, anyway, so this is self-knowing is a process that is not done on anybody's supervision, but it is done by you. It's better to do it on your own instead of reading some books or any of the direction, because that becomes more like a authoritative when you do that. But then you can take the insights and apply them and do the investigation on your own, and then that becomes really uh, first-hand, authentic, and you have done it by yourself, not depending on anybody else. So you will come out with the insights that are yours, and you will apply those insights, because if you are truly honest with yourself, because you will be the loser, right, if you compromise. So if you're honest and then you do it, then the transformation has a better chance, because you are not following anybody's orders or anybody's authoritative attitude or anything like that. You're just reflecting on things and then going forward. So self-knowing starts from morning till evening, and whatever you are doing, whether you are doing something with your mind and within your mind, or you are interacting with the world, with the people, with the things around, with all those things. So how you treat uh, a lower class person versus higher executive, how you deal with somebody who is very poor to very rich people, or somebody in America, this is very common, who is going to be useful to me, and accordingly I will put a smile, I'll do everything just like, and afterwards I will not deal with them. That's fine. So that is something around the world, and in America also you experience that transactional nature of it. it is stupid. Sometimes you have to do jobs, you have to go and deal with people, that's fine. But usually relationships are cultivated because what is in it for me, what is he going to do for me. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about somebody points out to you something, your inner life, not with malice, but more with uh, love and care and affection. They pointed out something, and then you are usually the parents or the spouse or the kids or your friends, loved ones, and all those. Okay, they may point out something because they are able to do that. They are want to your welfare. They may do that, but some people may want to do it because ill will, right? They don't like you, or they don't appreciate your success and all. But then other people will be very happy for your success, and those are the people who will tell you that that is there. Okay, I think Sanya is here. Let me ask her to come up. You know, so that kind of thing. Hi, Sanya.
Hi, Dr. Ram.
Yeah, you missed a major part of the talk. You know.
Okay.
Uh,
I was just out of the Zoom meeting. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Yeah, see, I did tell people that I'm going to do every day. Maybe they have other meetings. They will invite me to other meetings too. I said I cannot come now, you know. So
Yeah.
anyway, I was talking about self-knowing and what can happen if you really take that serious and have some insight to it, and then apply them in your daily life. Okay. So, do you do that kind of reflections on a daily basis?
Yeah, I do in the morning, like, we always do, right?
Yeah.
And then, of course, in the evening now, I'm doing it a little more,
Little
just
more.
because,
Yeah.
you need that time,
Yeah.
to,
Yeah. So I was
know.
telling them how I'm going to make these things of daily life things, okay, instead of out there in the la la land or out there in the intellectual world, just staying the conceptions and then we say, oh, yeah, yeah, that's a good idea, and then retire. That's not what I'm doing here. So every day I'm going to take a daily life thing and then how we can really make it a study or reflections so that the insight that you get from it will help you to transform yourself, you know. So for example, somebody is not sleeping in a quality sleep, okay. So I could so end goal is to improve the or enhance the quality of our lives, right, daily lives, you know. That way this is going to be very relevant, you know. For example, if you don't have the chatter in your mind, how peaceful you are, how blissful you are, right? That's what I always talk about because I think on the matters that I need to think, right? But I don't have this chatter going on all the time. So how much blessing is that? No matter what the situation is. I know the politics, I know the all these things that people play in the hospital, right? But that's a very trivial thing for me. So I just step away from that and then look back. Why am I here? I'm here for the patient. Then my whole thing is based on that. Is this good for the patient care? Is this good for any of the hospital staff that are going to do all the service? That kind of thing. You know, then immediately, probably I'm not in the rat race, Sanya, anymore. That may be the step that I took that helps me to be like that, you know. But still, it's a practical thing, right? I go to a meeting because I'm independent usually, the traffic and everything, right? I mean, in the clinic practice and everything, I'm independent. I don't depend on any groups there. So I don't belong to any groups also in a sense. But I'm friend to everybody, but I don't have that. And so both groups approach me for votes because they have their own arguments. You know, these things happen, right? Chairman and president of the hospital, all those things happen, and then we need to vote the permanent members of the hospital board. We have to vote, right? Then this politics comes, you know. Then always my question is, okay, you are asking me, what does it do for my patient? That's the question I ask the patient. They try to say, oh, no, no, this is going to be good for you. I say, if it is good for my patient, it's good for me. You don't do anything favor to me. That's what I tell them, you know. and then immediately they come down, and then they have to tell me their true intentions and noble things and all that. If it seems like they are trying to fill their personal coffers and not the improvement of the patient care, then I say, okay, that's fine. I will see you later. So I don't pick up an argument or anything, but I can see them very clearly, because when you go certain height, you can see the boards under the what you're going. Like that, if you can think about certain things at a higher level for the sake of the whole world or the whole society and all that, then it's very easy to see people who are just confined to their mind and thinking only for themselves, right? So then you can tell them, this is what it is. If you tell me this is good for us collectively, and then usually if they present like that, I may lean forward to them, I may go and support them. But otherwise, I will just be neutral, or I don't support anybody. So it doesn't cause any problems for me, because they all know that I won't be swayed away just because they're going to bribe some things. If you are working to make more money, or if you are working to get more status, or be honored and all that, then you can be corrupted. But if you are working because you want to serve and you want to really give unconditionally, that is the karma yoga I practice, right? Karma is doing works. Karma yoga is giving things unselfishly. Once you practice that, who can corrupt you, right? So that kind of your own inner um, reflections and insights, according to what you think is the right thing, that gives you tremendous independence and also power, because other people cannot really get you anywhere. This happens quite often because they have monthly meetings, they have quarterly meetings. Right now, I'm not active in the hospital that much, but I used to be very active before. But you still, as a um, been there for so many years. They come sometimes ask us to come and support them with whatever support we can give. One time I was very supportive of the people who are pushing the EMRs at the time. Then I said, okay, we will definitely support it, because in the long run, this is going to help the patient. Because simple things I presented to them. Look at the writing, illegitimate writing, then all the prescriptions are mistaken, and then patients were given medication that were not right, and that resulted in problems. So that's one of the reasons. Like that, so many reasons we said we will not support unless it is helpful for the whole hospital. First of all, patient, right? Then the administration, then other people, if they're because they are spending so much money, they put like so many millions for the EMR system. But the people who are looking just for their convenience, they fought like, we don't want it, we want the paper to continue. Obviously, it's not going to continue, right? So everybody is going to adapt to the EMR eventually. We know that. So all that is unnecessary stress. That's when I started these stress classes for the trainers. They were nurses. We trained them earlier so that they become the super learners. So we want them to go around the hospital, train everybody else. So these girls who are interested, they came forward voluntarily. They did not take any money for that either. And then they learned themselves, and then they went around the hospital, taught other doctors, other nurses, and all that. So that is something I really supported. I was active and participated right in the front line and implemented it and trained them. In so many ways, I was involved. But that was a good cause. So that nobody is going to give me any money or anything. I'm an independent physician, but I was as interest. So you see what I mean? So if you are identifying with the cause higher than you, and then you are serving that cause, then this ego that wants for itself will really get to the bottom, and then the awareness will come to the front. And then it's very easy to see how your ego mind is working. And then having insights into that, you can transcend them. But if you say, oh, I know myself, I know everything about it and all that, then you're really not helping yourself. Let's put it that way. What do you think, Sanya?
Yeah, I of course was talking about your servant leadership the other time, right?
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
So I tend to, of course, in terms of consciousness, right? And in many ways, when you're aware of those kind of things, right? What you're doing forward, sometimes when you're doing things that you love and you care for, it's not even thinking it's beyond the service thing. It's just like doing, right?
Yeah.
That's what's there and needed, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think too much of those categories anymore. I just, it's more like a feeler.
Yeah.
And just because by doing the things that feel good in your heart, right? And I feel sometimes it doesn't, it bypass all these things that you have to put in terms of compliance and stuff like that, right? And or ethics or morals, or it's just love that you spread,
Yeah.
from you.
They're saying on the wisdom app they can't hear me.
Oh,
yeah, I don't know.
It could be because a couple of times, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I have been talking for about 38 minutes now.
Yeah. Oops, when I went there, it was okay.
Yeah. But I don't know. Lois sent me that message. Lois, I hope you can hear me. Give me a signal.
It was in low volume for sure, Dr. Brown. I mean, like
it was. I put the full volume here, so it's close to me too. That I put the wisdom on the iPad, and I'm speaking on the Clubhouse with this iPhone. You're able to hear me, okay, right? So,
yeah, when I went into wisdom, it was a little faint, right? Your voice, so that might be why Lois was saying that. I was going to tell you.
Yeah. But I improved. I put the volume highest there, so hopefully.
You put it on the speaker mode or no?
No, it's okay.
Yeah, it might be easier that way, so it captures more of your voice.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I kind of switch it on, switch it off again. Hopefully, they can hear me now. Anyway, anybody is interested, I will give a brief summary of what I was doing here. I started this house, which is the BA PAL house, yesterday. The aim was to, how can you be your real self, your real nature? Not your ego, not your personality, but your real self-luminous self that is within you. The best way to reach that is keep quiet of the superficial mind, and then it will be revealed by itself. So to be the keep quiet is a big deal. Usually we have this urge to speak, we have something to say, we want to be validated, we want to express ourselves, we want to tell people, I know everything, I want to teach you, all those things, right? They all have to come down. So if several people, when I put this question, do you know who you are? Everybody told me, yeah, I know who I am. What they mean is they know their values, they know their goals, they know their thoughts, they know how they react, happiness or sadness, they know what their relationships are, how they cultivate, they know their pleasantness and all that. That's not you. Those are your attributes. So what happens is when you really go deep into meditation and inner reflection, then you will touch that. That is where your real happiness, your peace is there. You can say that I know, but who is that is knowing? That's also you have to understand. So it's a big thing, but this is a journey you take. And then that journey is your personal journey. Okay, and group learning, group talking may indicate that, but eventually you got to take steps towards it by yourself. So that is the difficult parts of it. So I'm starting very slowly so that people can lead. So I'm saying self-knowing. I put an article today morning so that people can understand. I was telling about meditations, journaling, or you go for therapy, and you can have reflections of other people to you. Those are the 4 points I focused on. So if you meditate, what it is you kind of quiet your consciousness of all this noise. Usually what happens is a lot of junk come our way, so many thoughts, so many things come our way, and then we bury our space with that. That's why there is no space for other things and people have problems. But when you really meditate, you kind of empty all those contents of consciousness. Whether you are doing or not, only you will know. Only you will know what kind of thoughts are popping up, what are tendencies, and all that. Sometimes you may give way because you are very angry. You can show those emotions outward too. But generally, the more sophisticated, the more erudite, the more scholarly, the more reading about the scriptures, all this becomes a burden on the mind not to be able to perceive things by itself. Okay, so what I wanted to tell people is know your thoughts, how they are coming and going, and all. How can you know? Watch them. Don't indulge in them or don't suppress them. If you do that, then you will not be able to really study them, right? What it is, where it is coming from, all that. Out of that watching, they will slow down. They won't take their own life. Out of the slowing, you can identify one thought and see objectively that one thought. Okay, thoughts are not you, because that energy is behind, is having the thoughts. Okay, so you can see that. Then you can change that. If it is negative, you can change that to positive. This is all the yoga training. And then you stay with one thought for a long time, to the extent where you become one with it, and then you absorb into a deep state of silence and tranquility and harmony. That is when the true nature of yours really luminous, that is self-luminous, come out of then what happens? You are going to really operate from that energy, not this superficial. Your there that mind can be cunning, that mind can be clever, that can mind can be shrewd. All those qualities are there, or self justification, self righteousness. Okay, whatever I'm thinking, this is right, and other things are not right. Okay, so people behave like that because they have invested in so many things that they may be psychologically invested into. Oh, I'm so knowledgeable than other people are. Then what happens? All the other people are really uh, become problem or enemies or whatever. So that all those are thoughts and going around. But if you can be in that energy where your cognitive mind is used for whatever work you do, whatever service you do, whatever talking you do to express yourself without malice, without any enmity and all that, then it becomes very easy, right? So to come to those stage, it becomes start with the daily life and see what's going on. Don't fool yourself, don't bluff yourself, but just without judgment. That's the first thing I talked about in that article. I think I put it on the LinkedIn, right? And then you can also journal. A lot of people do that, right? But the journaling also should not become reinforcement of what you are going through, but should be able to give you an insight into what's happening within you. And without judging yourself, you can change that uh, insight to be the agent to transform yourself in the quality of your being. And that is when you really are self-knowing. Don't be clever and argue about this. That's what I'm saying. That has become a tendency, because for the situation's sake we may say things, and then we think that is very diplomatic and nice. Uh, that's all okay if you don't want to go inward and really realize who you are and the spiritual stuff. But that's called Vishayi Loka. That means worldly matters, and so it's not bad or anything. You can be worldly if you want to. You can be worldly. A lot of people earn properly and have some luxuries or pleasures properly, and then they pass away, and all that's all up to them. But then, if you want to really go inward for the everlasting fulfillment, this is what is needed: self knowing, self knowledge, and then also self realization who you are. That doesn't happen just because you heard uh, everybody describing it. That happens when you take your inward journey by yourself. You know, the more you talk about it, the less you are really in touch with it. The more you are working on it, and then you experience it, then you can come and talk. But before that is silenced, that is where you experience that blissfulness, tranquility, harmony. And for that there is the influence of the diet, influence of the movement, influence of your social relationship, and influence of your understanding of the world. All those things come into place. But the person who is stabilized in that insightful wisdom, he has that, he won't react to one thing one way, other thing. He will be stable. He won't go down when something bad happens, or he won't be so elated with his ego when something good happens or something he praises him. All those things are there. So this is what it is, and it's a long program. And whoever comes in, I welcome them to really look into like that. And then, if they want, they can always come and talk to us, and then ask questions or present their way of going about it. I'm sure a lot of people realize the value of what I'm talking about. But just listening and just accumulating the knowledge is not the way to go. The knowledge that is reflected on, questioned on, and then taken as a, what is that I am learning from here? How is applicable? People, just because they are very uh, articulate, and then they are able to say, but they don't want to really see the fact that they are hiding the truth inside of them. They may be articulate about some things, but then when it comes to real life, they are not really putting it in their life. There's not one person. Generally, only one in a few thousands, I believe, will have this insightful learning. And among those several thousands of them, one only will really apply that. So it's that rare, but it is so blissful and tranquil and harmonious. It itself is the peace. It is itself the happiness. You won't get the peace just because you are active in political field, or really reading spiritual books and then repeating them without having this change with it. If the spiritual book gives you insight and you have applied, yeah, surely. But then, just because you can render some sentences from the scriptures doesn't mean that you know yourself completely. So there is a way to really identify that, Sanya. So if I look at anybody's talks or anybody's understandings, you can evenly say whether they are perceptual or intellectual. Okay, perceive beyond the senses and intellect, or just conclude from the past knowledge. Or somebody said this, somebody said that, and all that. But in their own interior, are they like that? So because that is the crown jewel of this. Because once you touch that, it's so what do you say, uh, probably highest bliss probably possible. Once you have that, the life becomes really light. There are seven ways to express this. You will be free of false pride and delusion of what life is, and then you will overcome all desires, right? And then you renounce all desires, and then overcome the burden of attachment, right? And then you are always mindful of this deeper self I'm talking about, which is the diamond. And because you are not really taken by the uh, um, duality of life, the pain and pleasure, the hate and love, all those things, all those dualities will not affect you. And with this kind of thing people have, they're unaffected by this double thing of life. The pain and pleasure are the two sides of the same coin, so they're unaffected by it. And then they finally reach the destination of realizing they are, which is the divine self within them. So these are all practices that are talked about, practiced by themselves too. So basically, these people who have realized like that, they will be always conscious of their inner self, and they're unaffected by these dualities, and they kind of overcome that burden of attachment, and so they're not attached to anything. That's why they don't have to suffer that when they are gone. And that's one of the reasons why so much of mindfulness happens in this country, but people are very attached to their, it is money making or getting some things, and the attachment is there for all those things, and they're not uh, mm, dispassionate. See, that is called vairagya in Sanskrit terms. They always talked about that's one of the spiritual requirements of that. If you are craving for worldly matters, then you will never be able to understand this spiritual significance of the inner self. You know, and then you always have to be free of this false pride and delusion, and you have to overcome your desire, and you have to really renounce the desire, not overcome, renounce desire and overcome the attachment, and then sit in silence and go inward, and then be identified with that all the time. I'm talking about even touching just is good, but then people who are there all the time, they have such a glow. Even if you go to their presence, your mind will be calm. That is actually documented. So the people who are like that, because they don't have any of these things, afflictions, that's why they are very calm, and your mind will be calm too. That is there. So the more you explore, not talking to me or anybody, but the more we explore within, the better it will be for us all the time. So I want to make this more understandable and practical. That way they will be able to. They'll be able to make it more practical, and not to have to listen to talks like this all the time, but at least understand. Otherwise, the entrenching outward life can be very imprisoning. People don't understand that. So they say, okay, let me enjoy all these things, and later on I will get into this, and that's why it becomes so much trouble. What they used to do in ancient India? They used to teach about this inner self, which they call Brahman, or Tao in Tao, right? They used to teach this to young kids, and then those young kids, then they said, okay, you can go and have a householder's life. You can marry, you can have kids and all that, but then understand this is the highest thing. And then after you have taken care of your societal and your own family and all that, come back to it when you are really old, when you don't have to do anything. Then you can really attain that forever fulfillment. That they call moksha. So they said you can be good and you can make a living, you can have some fun, but they're all not going to be forever fulfilling. They'll be fleeting, coming and going, right? But this other thing, that is what I'm talking about, is really forever fulfilled. It won't come to you because you are successful in your career, you are successful with your family and all that. But it will come to you when you turn inward, watch all the thoughts and everything, understand them, and then go beyond them. Make sense, Tanya?
Yes. Yeah, I just find each day it's like something new that I'm learning, and this is like you know, like it's something that I'm not aware of before.
I know. You remember I was talking about AEIOU?
Yeah.
What was the U?
Something about universe, I know.
You heard it so many days, I repeated it, I'll repeat it. I'll tell you, remind you, because, it comes, perceptions come slowly too. That's okay. But what I'm saying is, we were talking about this all the time. I was talking about this inner self uniting with the universal self. That is the you representing.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Universe.
Yeah. No, universal consciousness is not separate from us. That's the thing. Once we realize, we are already there. So I was always talking about the inner self. You remember when we were taking the deep breath and deep breath, what did we say? And we breathe out, we are not the just body and mind. And you're taking the deep breath, who am I? I am this self that is inside. Remember that breathing?
Yeah, I mean, like yeah. So
it's always
doing the meditation. Yes.
Yeah, always this is the goal. First, knead the body, tire it out, then breathe energy into it with breathing exercises. When you come to sit down and meditate, this is what you meditate on. Now it makes much sense for you what I took you the routines, so they always progress towards this, so body is not me, but body is my tool which I want to use to go for my spiritual practice. If I'm not healthy, if I cannot sit down, how can I do that? That's the thing. Mind is also not me, but it is my tool. So I want to make it focused. I want to understand all the vagaries of the mind. Then I'll go. That's why what I said, be in awareness, not in thought. Be here and now. That means your mind is not going backward and forward. So when you are practicing with me, that 1 hour is exercise in awareness, bringing forth the awareness, not the thought. But if you are involved in the thought by yourself, that's up to you. But if you don't involve and understand what you're talking about and bringing the awareness up front and then using the thought, that's what I do. That's why you're always in the present, you are always in the bliss, and you are always using the thought and body better, much more intelligent. You are not the victim of their variations. You are using them as a very refined, like a mind is pure and made very sharp, very focused. Whereas body is made such a way that it will nourish the brain and the mind with a good sattvic energy. Sattvic energy is what it is when your mind is tranquil and harmonious. That energy is described as sattvic energy in Sanskrit. That's a very vital energy. So you need the vital energy to really investigate your own workings of the mind and going beyond them. And that's why in yoga, I make it like you got to align with your presence, you have to align with your breathing, right? All the asanas are not done just to make the physical body good looking or anything. It's made to make it healthy and strong for a long time, so that self, that is the inner core of your being, uses the mind and the body as instruments towards the spiritual attainment of this. Actually, it's not even attainment, realizing it. It's already there, but if you have put in a wheel over it and remove the wheel, then it's already there. It comes self-luminous.
Yeah.
It was all there. For you, it was all given. It's all given, but you got to catch it. That's all. It makes sense now because you did that several times, but you didn't catch it.
Yeah, I was just like, for me, I couldn't identify when my thoughts are not noisy anymore, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I'm trying to think back when that happens, right?
Yeah.
But
the thing is, if you use yoga for achieving something, that's different. But yoga itself, identified as the tool for the ultimate yoga, then you have really understood yoga, and then whatever you do becomes yoga also. Like this talk I'm doing through, what I'm doing is yoga for me, in the sense I am serving my friends and by sharing what is in the daily life they can turn for their inner growth, or not even growth, I don't want to call it growth, inner awareness of their true energies. And how they are depleting these energies, because society is like that. It will be like that. Society will be always like that. They will pull you out. They will want to go do something for themselves and all that. This I told you, the vairagya, that withdrawal, dispassion, that is not there. A lot of my friends who can understand the spiritual insights very well, but they are still fascinated by having fun, doing things and all that. That's exactly opposite. You got to have a kind of a dispassion for that if you want to go deep. You don't have to go. It's not that bad if you don't want to go. You want to have fun. You're going to have fun. But realization of this is not going to be there. That's all. So it's each individual they can be worldly, they can be fun loving, they can be enjoying joys, and that's fine. But then for those people who are looking for real fulfillment and really understand what this energy we're talking about, then it is a big deal for them.
Yeah. So I want to introduce you to my friend Gemma out in the audience there. She's been listening. Of course, she does more of the Shen practice, to chant.
Yeah, she wants to come up, you can invite her.
Yeah. I can't. I invite her? I don't know how to.
No, I invited her. Yeah.
Okay. Hi, Gemma. Hello, Dr. Rayo. Hello, Sonia.
Hi, Gemma. Nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you, and I've really enjoyed your talk this evening.
Yeah.
I'm really glad that Sonia introduced me about you, and so when I saw that you had a room, I quickly came over. So thank you.
Yeah. Oh, nice meeting you, Gemma. Because this is what we're going to do every day for a while. Because I want to introduce all that I want to say about this. It's not that I'm going to judge people, because everybody has their own journey, And then there was a saying by Swami Vivekananda that appealed to me very much. He said, eventually, everybody will be realized. It's a question of what kind of energies they have built up, what kind of karma they have done, and all that. So there's time, there's patience, and all that. So you don't have to judge other people just because they are living in a certain other energies, their own way and all. But the thing is, the transcendence of the suffering is one thing that you get when you go deeper and deeper. Other thing is the pain is inevitable anywhere in the suffering also. But the suffering itself is optional. That is how it becomes a suffering, right? Buddha's two-arrow theory,
I like that story.
Yeah. So that's what it is. But then another thing I discovered, which I got hooked into, was there's immense bliss. There's a Paramananda, that's what they call in Sanskrit. Ananda means this feeling of joy, happiness, bliss, that is not dependent on anything external, and that is also very extreme joy is possible. So that's why these people who go into the tranquility, the samadhi, they call, where they're completely blissed out, they kind of, once they see that, then they will not go back because they have tasted that. So these two things are possible, but eventually everybody will come. But then, if somebody wants to understand what are the things that are making me do like this, then that's a different thing. So I want to present my viewpoint. And then last night, my other people, community people, have come, but today they have the same another meeting at the same time. That's why I think they were not able to come, any of them. Which is okay. And also, not everybody wants to explore these things at this depth. Only few people want to. That's also fine too. So usually everybody is on their own journey, and if you could really travel with them, and then if you can really be there to give them the way you look at it, and that's what. So a lot of people are describing some of the things. I know they're totally wrong, and according to their understanding, they're trying to teach. Everybody doesn't want to learn everything. They want to go and teach first. That's also we say. But then, it's their thing. They will come through it, and they will realize that. But just practicing this myself is enough for me. I don't have to come on today. But then people like Sanya and other people, they kind of take interest in that. So I say, okay, for their sake also, I will open. There are some people that listen to these talks after I finish, and they send me messages, and some people come and say, oh, I've been listening to you for so long. So I know people are listening, but how fast they employ this inner transformation is up to them. Right, Gemma?
It could take lifetimes, many lifetimes.
Yeah. Actually, they described this as suppose one in a million can understand these things, and then among those million people of those who understood, only one will realize. So it seemed like, oh my God, this is so tough. It's not really tough in the sense, but I don't think it was present at all. Like, for example, Buddha had done so much by himself, but now he paved the way for the enlightenment by really expressing all that. But then they made him a god, and they did not want to participate what he was talking about. That's a different matter. But then enlightenment has become easier because Christ and Buddha and there are so many Ramana Maharshi and all these people, they kind of said here and now. Especially Ramana Maharshi, he's like, don't talk to me anything about past or the future. What are you doing here and now? And then you can do it very simply. You don't. He said, just be that energy is so simple. But we have invented so many religions, so many creeds and faiths and all that. Alas, it is a real big problem. You see, he kind of described like this. Suppose you are in the house, and then you want to go out 3 or 4 blocks and come back to the house because you never realize that you are in the house. I think, who is that Urdu poet? He said, Rumi said, I knocked the door, then I realized I'm already inside. Get it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's quite heavy. You have to really
the simple thing is this. It seems we are already realized, but we think we are not realized, and that's why all the struggle. So they said, just keep quiet, then you are realized. That's the difficult, I think, for us.
And I, it's a struggle. But you say to stay in the present and be where you are right now at this moment. But always, this our lifestyle that we bring on to ourselves is always rush.
I will tell you how this. I will tell you how this presence work for me, Jarma. With patients, right? Any encounter that I get, now I get consultations. So what happens is I am completely with the patient in presence is the thing only I concentrate. So I'm completely with him and I'm there. That's the only thing I have to do. And then next, when I go there, again, the same thing. So there is a saying that I remember for myself: one's attention has always to be poised on one's inner self, not the thinking brain and activity. Inner self that is aware, but not constantly thinking. The thinking takes you to the, you know, to the back and forth, to the past and forth, right? It's thinking itself is not bad, but the thinking is made like into the past and into the future. Then, so I think they describe this very well. So suppose you see a tree, and then if you go there and you are completely with the tree, then you won't bring the comparisons of your past experience of other trees or your expectation of what the tree should be into the future, and all that is not there. But as it is, can you be with the living being that is in front of you? Can you really appreciate all the features of the tree? And then once you walked away from the tree, if you carry that memory and make a picture out of it and think about it, then you have again slipped out of the presence into the imaginary past or the future. So that's why life is facing whatever it is as it is, without our screening of the thought. That is where the science and spirituality differ for me. Science, I can be scientist, I can be objective evidence, I can study because we're looking for a solution for a problem. That's okay. But then inner sciences are your own individual experience. There, we cannot bring somebody else's experience and say, oh, I'm compared to that, this. No. Whatever you kind of investigate and whatever you experience, that becomes unique. That's where I'm saying today's topic is, let us make these things very practical. Today, what I'm talking about is how can you turn inward and know your thoughts, emotions, everything on a daily basis, not according to somebody said, just you look at it and then you understand what is going on. And out of that, you will have a insight into why those things are like that. And then once you understand or investigate that insight or question that insight and make it your property, and then allow it to happen in your life. So, for example, I'm habitually saying some harsh word to somebody just because they are working under me, and I'm not aware of it. I'm not aware of their hurt or anything like that, which I don't do. I'm just describing, then there is, because I'm the boss, I'm the chief, everybody has to take it. That's my attitude. But then somebody comes and says, this is not good and all that, they will give insight. But suppose you do it yourself by following that, and then you have that insight, and the insight becomes the wisdom. And that wisdom you allow to happen in the daily life. Not that you make it an intellectual property and let it rest there, but in actual transformation of yourself, it has no role. On the other hand, if that insight plays a significant role in transformation, then you are really going beyond the egoic or personality or any of the intellectual activity. And then you really know that what you are inside. And then you will go there where it is that energy, which is all of us share. So you can accept anybody easily and you can understand. Otherwise, all the attributes of the mind will become the basis of what your judging people about, right? Like, so for example, if you have this insight, everybody eventually will be self-realized, realize that their true nature. That's self-realization meaning, right? They are not this body-mind complex, but they are that pure energy, pure consciousness. That is the self. That is encompassing all of us, and we manifest our body minds out of that. And if you realize that, once you realize me, that's already there. It's not put together by your thoughts, but it is already there. And that energy sees the thoughts as objects, and that becomes very easy to handle the mind. So that's why understand the mind management, understand the ego transcendence, understand the pure energy, then it's already there, thing will come. And then you say, I knocked the door, but I'm already inside. I kind of blown away whenever I remember Rumi's saying that, I mean, that is true. That's what it is. So we are already realized, but we think we are not. That is our problem. So that's why they said, just be, just be. And that is such a big deal because we kind of wave a network of thought around it. Then it is the one that kind of forms a wheel over our real self, and we're never able to take it off. And then the real self becomes opaque because the thicker the ego, the thicker those personality things and all that, then that becomes opaque. The light will not come out of it. But if you really take this cover away, the self-luminous self will come out, and that is such energetic, such harmonious, such tranquility. Then you don't look for outward things. That is where the happiness is. That's why they said happiness inside, not outside anything. There may be pleasure and a little bit of happiness and outward, but they are fleeting. That's the fact. But this one is something you landed up and stay there. And that's one thing I think people are mistaken about is how energetic this is, how peaceful and pleasant and happy and joyful. Not in the pleasant or the pleasure I'm talking about, but this is a joyful and blissful. That's why they call that existence consciousness. That consciousness is that existence. It's always there, even though our body might come and go. And that itself is the joy, joyful living. That's why you are always stationed in the present. You're always stationed at the inner self. And that's why you don't need anything from outside. Very blissful. Even talking about this, telling you, expressing it, very blissful to me. So what do you think, Sanya? What is all make sense, or is it nonsense for you?
I now understand, like in terms of placement, where we are in the thoughts part, which is kind of interesting because if we're already there and not even the manifestation of us, right? Yes. Like more like the thoughts already there. I like that part because I didn't, understand it before, right? And
it's not the thoughts. It is that primary consciousness that is there. Thoughts happen in that. Say you are aware of the thoughts, right? That is, the awareness is already there. Establishing yourself in that is the self-realization. You realize what you already are. So that is the way they said, Rumi said, I knocked the door. That implies like he's outside the house, he's knocked the door, somebody has to open it. But then he realized that I'm already inside.
Yeah.
Like Ramana, she said.
I think you also gave me a different description of that, about the man go all the way searching around, but when you return home, it's right there.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's Ramana, she described that. You all realize that means you are at home. But then you want to travel around. This is the struggle we do. All these investigations, all this argumentation, everything else and all. That's why they said, keep all this quiet. Even Christianity also said, be still and know your God. The ancient Hindus say, I am that. That means that complete Brahman is not out there, but you are in the Brahman, and part of the thing is in you too. So it is a famous poem in Gita. It says to the warrior, I am that energy which is giving living beings, all of them, the beginning, middle, and end. So in that energy, we are all one. That is where the ekatvam, the oneness comes. But once you understand it as an intellectual concept, that's not it. You got to feel it by your own investigation. But then once it is there, it's so simple actually. But we complicate because we have complicated mind. So they said, first clear your mind and develop focus. Then self-realization is a matter of 5 minutes. See, this karma yoga, that yoga of action in this life, what they describe is do your action unselfishly, okay, as a service, right? And then love unconditionally. And then focus on one thought and go beyond that thought. And then really look for who you are and realize that. Actually, I made this short video, like a less than a minute, these 4 yoga description. And only one girl caught that. Most of the people liked it and all that. But then she said the whole of Bhagavad Gita is described in that one sentence. Then if you look at it, yeah, that is true. Working unselfishly is a big deal. We could talk about that in one of these sessions. And then so loving unconditionally. That's also, I talked about this lots of times, And then the Raja Yoga, the 8 steps, that all leads to one thought in God. But then, what is the tendency here is they learn a little bit and then they start out teaching other people. First, help yourself, understand yourself, then you can help other people. And also, that becomes a business too. That's where things are, very few people are really able to enjoy this bliss and then lead a life of peace and harmony and tranquility. So my thing is, I was a doctor for so many years, and I've seen a lot of suffering, a lot of investigation on that. But also, if you look at the informatics, where the data comes in with how many numbers people are, what is going on. And then all those things made much sense to me when I have this perspective on life in a grand scale. But then it all comes to very simple. Just be who you are. Be still. They even said be quiet and be yourself. And that itself is Paramananda. That is extreme joy. Yeah. So what we're going to do is, I'm going to do usually 6 to 7, 7:30, 8 or something like that. Every day I will come and I will take some practical problem and look at it in this, not in a particular religious way, but in a way of a human being who is world citizen, doesn't have any affiliation to any religion, but how do we improve, enhance human life? So I'm going to take something like sleep, for example. I'm going to do something like energy, I'm going to do something like harmonious relationship. All these are practical problems, right? So this is where we'll come back to being ourselves and how that influences. Like, for example, I'm so old, 68, right? But my energy hasn't dipped at all. And I can notice specifically when I kind of got into these things, So it was before, it was like any other doctor and all that, right? They're taking all the stress and all that. But then after that, going to work also, it has become much worse, the conditions, but do not affect me. That's the difference. So I want to share some of the things you can do. Like self-knowing, I said 4 things today. One is meditation. Meditation means that you calm down and look at yourself and follow the thoughts and emotion. Please read that article, Sonia. I wrote it in LinkedIn. I published it there. This afternoon, I wrote it, just for this room. And then maybe I should have pinned it here. Maybe I'll do it from tomorrow. All that. I'm going to be doing articles relevant to the topic, and so that people may have some insight into that. Maybe we will advertise this room more instead of me coming and just opening it. I didn't do anything about opening it, so I have to do that too. I don't have the time for all those things sometimes. Whoever is interested, they will come. Otherwise, that's okay. And then other people who are interested always go and listen to them. Then we will talk about energy. We'll talk about relationships. We'll talk about emotional intelligence. All these things I talked about at length, and also how we are relating with our planet, what is the urgency of it, and wellness. Of course, 4 pillars of wellness I always talk about. But we'll bring it back here because the self-realized people are the highest health. They lived long, very well, and also they lived in joy. That's my slogan. Live long, live well, live in joy. But all this modern living is all the things that we have is not really doing that. As a physician, I know many people are desperate, and many people are ill, chronically ill, and don't have this vital energy that is needed to investigate the spiritual truths at the depth that they deserve. People don't have the energy, time, and all that, and there's a reason for that. And we will talk about general mental attitude about being happy for somebody else's success. That's called mudita. And I told you Patanjali Yoga Sutras, we're going to talk about it. My understanding of that I'll give. I think I have talked to so many rooms. At one room, somebody complimented me, Roman, I think. He said, 1 minute I described to them, because all these people are in a big hurry. Only 1 minute you tell it doesn't matter who is saying what, So I kind of put it, that's a good thing. I practice these things in the clubhouse in several rooms, because what they think is they think that is the best they know, and then they restrict everybody to that. So it's kind of boring to go to those rooms too. But I will take a detailed study on the Patanjali yoga, because yoga itself can contribute, but it has its limitations too. We'll talk about that too. Okay. How does it sound, Sanya? Plan?
Sounds great. I love it. Yeah, and I'm glad that everyone can pop in. I know Jacob and Dr. Joyce has been there for a little while. Marcet, great to see you.
Yeah.
And Cannon, welcome. Yeah. So definitely, if you want to put up your hand, and we can certainly have you come and talk with Dr. Rao. And Gemma is here too. Gemma approached, of course, she's working on her master's, and she's a Buddhist, practicing Buddhist, right, Dr. Rao? So it's interesting because all of these, in terms of my introductions to different ways of thinking, and also, perhaps even say
past. No, again, you're going into thinking. It's not the thinking, it's the way of life they pointed out. Thinking is only part of the problem of suffering. Okay. For example, these isms, I'm not into any isms, Hinduism, Buddhism, Christianism, but I'm open to everybody. So I embrace the Buddha for what he talked about and what he said about. See, Buddha, the term itself, one who transcended the mind. So all your thinking and everything is transcended by him. See? So that's a big deal, and then he never wanted to be worshipped as a god, right? They made him a god out of it. So being not tied up with any ism liberates you to embrace every ism. So that means you're not separating other people with one particular loyalty, but then you take the wisdom from everybody. So that's a good thing. We can talk about that too. Ekatvam, this also only one. Um, I don't mean to criticize that. I'm just pointing out that's another thing. That's why we have so many fights among Muslims and Hindus forever, right? And then Christians and Muslims. So many wars going on even now. Still, fundamental thing. All that. So it reminds me of 9/11. When the New York thing happened. I didn't know at that time, but then later on I came to know in 9/11, 1893, Vivekananda came for religions, a parliament of religions in Chicago. Okay, the theme was that we are all one family, we are all could be harmonious, and to promote the harmonious nature, they conducted the parliament of all religions. So you can practice whatever you want, but then that should not be like a limiting or separative factor among human beings. I think that's a very enlightened approach, evolutionary approach. I think people have degenerated into divisions and fights. That's why the consequence of 9/11 we have in New York. So I thought that was a very significant insight into what the current world situation is. That's why I say I'm a citizen of the world, don't belong to any country, but I may have affection for India, affection for US because I know these two countries very well. I appreciate the good things in both countries, but I don't identify anything because we are all only one Earth, one globe. Okay, that's also a yogic point of view too. And the same way, I don't practice any rituals of any um, religion, but I understand the significance behind them. You don't need to do that. Once you understand these things at a depth, I think anybody can do that. If I can do that, anybody can do that. It's a kind of understanding why the wars are happening, why the so much conflict and division is happening. All those things, if you don't understand, at the same time you're contributing to it by identifying with something, that's the problem. Say, I told you the story, right? Krishnamurti, when Mahatma Gandhi was assassinated, all the people gathered around him and they were all very worried. And then he said, "You are all responsible for it." They said, "What did we do? We are here. We did not go kill him." No, no, you are harboring that I'm the Hindu, I'm a Muslim, right? Everybody agreed, yeah, I belong to Hindu, I belong to Muslim, something like that. As long as you are giving life to the division, that is contributing to this conflict. Once it is divided, they come out conflict. But if you realize what he said, tribal nature of identifying with particular religion, then that's why all these religions also kind of prevent you from identifying who you really are because there's so much accumulated in our minds. Anyway, it's all personal journey again, so everybody realized on their own. But I just have to say what I think I do in my life. I don't expect everybody to follow that, but I just have to say this is how I don't want to be appear like I'm playing to the gallery or agreeing with people's things. That's why I don't care how many people come, how many people don't come. I just here to share and answer questions. If they have answered questions, I have no problem. I don't expect anything from anybody. And then I'm happy to share. That itself makes me happy. A lot of people call me, Sonny, after this and then send me messages. That means they are hearing. I don't know, maybe later, like 2 or 3 days later, the question comes on something I did on some day. But nothing changes any day, so I know what they're asking questions, I tell them. But they say, "Oh, you quoted that, you quoted this." Yeah, but what is the point I was making? That's all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good point, of course, with all that's happening. Yeah. And where, and everything we do is the contribution to that, right? So that's a good reminder for us to all come aware of. I didn't realize I was identifying certain.
Yeah. I mean, I listened to Buddha, for example, the two arrow theory. I quoted so many times. The arrow from the world will come to us. That is inevitable. The arrows. Somebody asked him, "You said you set out to solve the suffering. You saw the old age, you saw the disease, and you saw the death, and that's why you went out of the palace and you did all this. But then now you see, you're also old, you also have disease, you're going to die too. How did you solve it? Then he said, but how I take it has changed. So my reaction, which is the secondary arrow, first arrow is these things will come. This is not that, something from the world, something will come. But how I react, how I understood with this equanimous mind that I don't really do anything in the form of suffering creating for myself. And that's why I am kind of, stable in the presence of all these adversarial events. That's what happens once you get out of the body conscious, once you get out of the mind limiting consciousness and you identify yourself as the universal consciousness, then all the suffering has ceased. That's what he meant by second arrow. First arrow is inevitable. Second arrow is optional. That is, the suffering you make for yourself is optional. You don't have to do that. See, Sir simply, somebody came to him, I believe. I remember this story very well too. Buddha was talking, and the other people are there. This gentleman comes and they say, he starts to abuse him, say all sorts of nice things. You are spoiling these young kids, putting all sorts of things in their mind. And he was going on, and then finally he spit on Buddha and leaves. But there was no movement in Buddha. Then other people come and ask him, how come you did not say anything to him in return? Then he said, if I don't accept all his insults, all his things, why do I have to give it back? I never took it. See, he was no reaction at all. He was only understanding the ignorance and the arrogance of that man. And he didn't want, that's the first arrow that is coming at him. But there was no second arrow in the form of, suffering in Buddha. I think that's a good way to end it today, probably. I went over 40 minutes extra. I'm glad you guys came, Sanya. Nice meeting you, Gemma. And Joyce is here, Ivy is here, and Jacob and Marjorie. Some people come and gone too. If they are raising the hand, I would have brought them up. Otherwise, they were content to listen. That's fine. So we will go a series of talks based on daily life and how can we enhance those things with maybe some understanding. And if people are interested in deeper discussion, I'll be happy to engage them. So maybe I will send it to more people so that they know this is happening and they can come. I have to do some of it, but I'm not finding any time from morning to evening. Some consultations, wellness club, and some of these messages coming to me. And then also I'm into the artificial. I wrote 4 books and I wrote 50 articles. Can you believe that, Sonia? 50 articles. Now I am doing the articles, some videos also. So did you see that video? I sent, I think I made 6 videos so far, but then 2 videos I published in the restaurant. Did you see that, Sonia? First video, the giver.
I haven't seen all of them.
You are busy
so
making.
I'm watching so many stuff in terms of like the.
You're busy making money because you're an entrepreneur, right? That's okay. You can see that because I put it in. I opened a Substack account, and my friends made me do that. So all the articles and everything will come through that. Okay. So subscribe
which account? Sorry.
Substack.
Okay.
You know that online newsletter thing.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know that by this Crystal and other people told me about it. And then I said,
I didn't know how to spell that. Substack?
Yes, Substack. I also don't know, but only last week they told me and I kind of joined there.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure what that is.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to spell it.
And also there's so many apps they made me buy also, and there's a lot of them I'm not able to use, wasting money, So, yeah, so I'm happy to write these letters and then write these articles and then convert them into videos and then publish them there. I'm happy just that. I don't have to do so many other things because what I really want to do is something alone I do. I'm happy with that. All these are peripheral discussions. So I don't need any following. I don't need any admirers or anything. Just to share and then go home. That's what it is. But this burnout course, that is something getting busier, Sanya. People are really um, burned out, and then people are coming in. That is something taking more time during the 9 to 12. That's the time, and I give the time for them. And then also now I started servant leadership too. So executives who want suggestion, they are reaching out to. That's also, I am happy about that because all these executives, they will really go and serve several thousands of people, right? So if there is some change in them, and they learn some skills about not only about their own mental peace, but also what kind of service they are providing to other people. So I don't say you go and rule them. I say you go and serve them. They don't like it in the beginning because their ego comes in the way. But once they understand how it is going to really make them, I will tell them about the neurochemistry that happens when you are a giver. You know, so I read that article or the video. I put it there. Um, Giving benefits the giver, something like that. I put the title. All right, shall we take leave now? And we will meet tomorrow again at 6 o'clock. And tomorrow I'm going to talk about sleep, how you can improve the quality of sleep, no matter who you are, and without taking any sleeping medications, without really, exhausting yourself and all that. You can learn these sleep techniques, then you can have quality of sleep. If you do them tomorrow you can improve your quality. Okay, because I do them. I have been doing them for the first day itself. I felt the change, and I never left that. Okay, so it's just something I don't think many people heard full blast on sleep. I was only talking a little bit about the questions they have. They don't want to go beyond that. What can we do? Mm. Okay, I will see you tomorrow then, Sanya. Gemma, nice meeting you. Everybody else, thank you for coming.
Thank you, Dr. Rao. Thank you. Okay. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks, Sonia. Great night, guys.